What is going on, you guys? We got the playoffs, and we're back after a 1 year hiatus. Oh, it feels good to be back in the playoffs after last year and all those disasters that happened. Welcome back to the playoffs. You get to face the LA Kings in round one. What a great subplot and all that, all the hoopla that's going to go around with this series. You got to exercise your demons. Why not? Why not? The team that beat you in the playoffs the last 2 years, and really the Sharks haven't beaten Daryl Sutter in the playoffs ever, if I'm looking correctly. I mean, what is it? They beat the Flames that 1 year when Daryl Sutter moved to the front office, but yeah, they haven't beaten Daryl Sutter, who was their former coach. I don't think ever when he's been behind the bench. I mean, you have 2004 that happened. You have 2013, and then you have 2014. Those were all the times Daryl Sutter has been behind the bench. I mean, Terry Murray was the guy in, I think, 2011, so that doesn't count. Anyways, yes, you get to face the LA Kings to start round one. Oh, the classic. Both teams actually returned to the playoffs. The Kings came up short the year before as well, if anyone forgot. So, what goes on there? I'm not sure what happens. But what I do know is this. Martin Jones has been quite an asset, and I know that's going to be the other fun subplot, the other former King guy, who I thought before the season started, I thought he was a very good goalie. I did not think he was going to be worth a first-round pick and he'd be playing where he is today. The guy's carried the Sharks. The Sharks don't make the playoffs without him. That's the one thing I can confirm. He's won some games on his own, and he's capable of that whole hot goalie in the playoffs thing. Every team's going to need that if they want to make a run. We've seen it before with other guys. I mean, of course, we learned the lesson when Jonas Hiller did that about 7 years ago. Again, and in the past, there's been other hot goalies and hot moments where guys will just make saves and stand on their head. But of course, this is the LA Kings, a team that knows this too well. The most important thing for the Sharks is I'm happy they don't have home ice advantage. Sharks, for some reason, don't play so well at home, but they get motivated on the road. Maybe they like the idea that the crowd doesn't cheer for them. Maybe the ice is better away from the SAP Center. I'm not sure, but they do better on the road than at home. So I'm happy they don't have that advantage thing of playing at home. I didn't want that at all. So that being said, the Sharks got to show me they can do something. Because right now, the Kings, just mentally, we think about 2 years ago, and we all know what happened there. I would not be surprised if this series ends no matter any way at all. I know this sounds cliche and terrible, but just like I've said about the Sharks season is, I wouldn't be shocked whether it ends in good or bad this series. You have to expect everything possible. The Sharks did earn their way into the playoffs. There's no doubt about this. They were not backed in. They had a good season for what I expected them. I expected maybe fringe playoffs, and they kind of got that with finishing in third. But this is a solidified third, not getting backed in or barely getting in. They actually did beat enough opponents, especially the Eastern Conference, in order to get into the playoffs this year. One thing I will say, Donskey, really good rookie out of the guys who's emerged this year. There's been inconsistency with defense, especially Brandon Dillon. That trade's not looking very good, and now he's signed for the long run. But the biggest key to this series will hinge on Brent Burns, who's been having an amazing year. I'm kind of scared what they're going to do with him and how the Kings probably try to stop him. I bet that'll be Daryl Sutter's plan. They got to learn to stop. They got to learn to not be dependent on Brent Burns and get secondary scoring from the other guys around the supporting cast. And of course, we all talk about what's mental up here. Think about what's happened in the last, I don't know how many years, but we all think about 2 years ago. And these guys better get it out of their heads. This is a new head coach, same GM, but hopefully the new head coach, Peter DeBoer, he knows what it's like to, at least when he's in the playoffs, he's made a run. But of course, that was his only year in the playoffs. That one run they made it to the finals, and then they lost to the LA Kings in 2010. So even Peter DeBoer knows what it's like to lose to the Kings. That being said, he's done okay. I won't say great. Sometimes I feel talent has overtaken the team. There is enough talent to compete. And we'll see what happens there. Of course, if Martin Jones is out or somehow he becomes ineffective, they could always plug in James Reimer, who I like the guy. He's a guy that's rootable, and I wish they bring him back for the following year, but that probably won't happen. Uh, yeah, the Sharks, they have some short-term fixes. Obviously, they had Pawaka in there and so on. Bunch of supporting guys. Joe Ward's proven to be a decent pickup. No doubt about it. Tomas Hertl, hopefully he keeps providing secondary scoring. I'm just still on the fence because this is the LA Kings. I think this series will be close, but I really think it's got to be about finishing shifts, finishing strong, because the Sharks, we all know they've been competitive, and there's been times they've treaded water, no pun intended. But they have not finished games with the same energy that they started from. A lot of it is they're nervous. A lot of it's mental. And the Sharks had one of the best power play units in the league this year. No surprises, but it doesn't mean anything once it comes playoff time. The big issue for me is, do they get too pass heavy? This team likes to pass a lot on the power play. They don't take the shot they need to. I hope they don't get too nervous every time they're on the power play and it becomes ineffective. I hope it just doesn't turn around like that, because I'm a little worried of those. The penalty kill's also kind of in the middle. It wasn't as good as some of the past years, so we'll see what happens there. The Sharks, I mean, there's expectations somewhat, but luckily the national media is not jumping on the Sharks. Only a handful of people are going to pick them. This is one of those 50-50 type of playoffs. Now, I'll live with however the result is of this series, as long as it's not what happened 2 years ago. I'll be all right. I think the Sharks took a good step forward this season, and I do believe they can win this series. There's enough talent to do so, but a lot of it is mentally upstairs. So what do you have on this series? A little rant I want to make is I don't like the current playoff format since the lockout. The way it's set up with the conferences, and it really forces rivalries within the division, and I don't like that. It's especially now that when you come in second and third, you play each other right away. It's too easy to force the rivalries on some of these teams, and I'd rather see. Yeah, there's other parts of the Western Conference that are big too. You don't have to be facing them until the conference finals. I mean, sadly, the thing is, the chance of having a Rangers-Devils Eastern Conference Finals is very slim nowadays. You're not going to see them play at the very end. Now you get to see them play in the first or second rounds. Of course, the other big deal. Of course, this year I know the Rangers can play the Islanders in the Eastern Conference Finals, which would be awesome. But you're not going to see division rivalries go to the conference finals, and I'm going to be kind of sad at that, the way it's all set up. So I wish the NHL could fix the format, because even the last couple of days, some teams didn't mind losing so they could play a certain opponent. I liked the way the former format was, and so on. It's also very sad to see that all 7 Canadian-based teams are not even in the Cup final. They didn't even make the playoffs. A couple teams I'm not surprised of, but Vancouver, Calgary, I expected more out of those two, and I know the Habs had no Carey Price, so I get it. That sucks, but yeah, I heard the Canadian dollar's value went down, so I encourage you all to make a trip to Canada, because the value a little bit cheaper. I think it was like $1.30 equaled $1 US. So use it, make a trip to Canada. That's what I do encourage. Anyways, yeah, the Sharks. We'll see what happens. It can go either way, and who knows what can happen. See you guys later, the Sharks, and hopefully I'll be able to recap game by game. This should be intense, and I'll be staying up late for most of it, so we'll see you guys later.